This is The Roadmap with Ted Jenkin.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Roadmap. I'm Ted Jenkin, and you're watching the Atlanta Small Business Network. Every week we bring you founders and CEOs and entrepreneurs, and we talk about several things: how to climb the ladder, how to scale your business, and ultimately one day you too can exit stage left and monetize your business. I'm in here today with a good friend of mine, the guest Greg Abel. He's the owner of Tailfin Marketing, a great digital ad agency, branding agency here in Atlanta. They've done some big names over time. Wait, I have to know, just to start this thing, is the ad agency business like the real Mad Men? Is it like...
Absolutely not. It was at one point. So I got into this business in the early 90s, and it was close, but it had already kind of started to sand off some of the edges.
Right.
But it was still a wild game. It is much less so now, and maybe that's just because I'm getting old. But yeah, it has definitely changed a lot from the 90s and changed a lot from the 60s and 70s.
No more gin and tonics, three of them at lunchtime.
It used to be Bones in Atlanta was the three.
Was that the place?
Oh yeah, 3 martini lunch. My old boss is immortalized on the wall there. There's a Last Supper, and he is the Jesus figure behind the bar at Bones. So yeah, it was a real thing.
What's changed today? I remember seeing Mad Men and just looking how they traditionally created ad campaigns.
Yeah.
Now you fast forward to almost 2023 here.
Yeah.
What's changed in the ad agency business?
So let me start with what hasn't. So it's still a story business. You still have to be able to tell a compelling story in a very limited amount of time to get people to change their mind, which is incredibly difficult to do. What has changed is that people are so enamored with the technology. So everybody's got a shiny algorithm. Everybody's got a different way to identify and place and trace where those messages are hitting the target. So the big difference is back in the day, media was sort of the necessary evil.
Right.
And now it's sort of the shiny new toy. And it's interesting. I think there's a lot of different agencies. We don't do as much of the technology media side as we still do the storytelling side. But those things mesh together in a way that has a lot more equal weight than it ever did. Back in the day, like I said, I started in media and we were kind of a little bit the stepchildren.
Yeah.
And it was always the shiny creative people that did the cool stuff. Now it's sort of much more of a balance.
Well, I know you've worked for big names, Edible, you've got Chick-fil-A, you've worked for big names all over the place. For an owner that one day is thinking about selling their business and knowing that this is your business, how much does brand matter, do you think, when you might sell your business down the road?
It matters maybe at the onset. If you can have some of those marquee names on the billboard. The truth is that once people start talking to you about valuating your business, it quickly goes into, okay, well, how much revenue are you pulling in there?
Right.
If you have a brand that everyone knows, this is Atlanta, everyone's worked on some part of Coca-Cola. So if you have Coca-Cola as your marquee client, but they account for 10% of your business,
it doesn't matter.
Nobody really cares.
Right.
Or if you're making no money, if it's a zero margin business and you just have it as a marquee. That said, if it can really add some spice and flavor if you have a very healthy financial business to have some of those named clients. The risk is that everyone wants those clients, and so they can be a little bit more difficult to protect and defend off any competition. Where if you have some clients that maybe are startups or that are B2B or that are in a really specialized space, sometimes you can grow a business by really focusing in on that and not becoming as enamored with what's the big marquee name.
There are technology businesses out there that obviously work off of annual recurring revenue and service businesses. But in your business, because you do these big projects, how do you balance trying to get recurring revenue versus hefty one-time rebranding projects? I know that you've done some big ones.
Yeah. Well, so we look at those big projects like a rebrand as a starting point. We want to come to a client and say, let us prove to you that what we're going to do is going to actually fuel your business forward. Once we've done that, the hope is that we've built enough trust and we've created enough product that they say, how do we keep this going? So you kind of how do you get them hooked on the idea of marketing as fuel? I think that the other thing is there are different shops that specialize. We love to do those big transformations. There's other shops that hate it because it's really scary.
It's not their jam.
And they want to just do that. Let me churn it out. Let me keep it going. So for us, we think it's a great entry point because we like to say, hey, how can we discover what really makes your brand amazing? What's your authentic truth at the core of your brand? But then how can we keep that engine going on and on?
When you look at your business, and I think about these ad agencies, right, or doing this creative over time, you need to have really good people on staff. And now you're the owner, and let's say one day you decide you want out. How important it is for you to develop the bench and creating successors, because another company is going to say, wait a minute, Greg's the guy that came up with a lot of these ideas. You executed them. What's going to happen if you're gone? How would that work, and how do you think about that as you develop your team?
That's the steepest hill to climb.
It is.
It truly is. And this was years ago, but we got an offer, a buyout offer, that they wanted me to stay for 10 years. and I said, why would I even buy? Like,
it's a long time.
Why wouldn't I just keep doing this on my own for 10 years? So the truth is, it's the hardest lesson as someone who's built a business was that you need to hire more people to make more money. That was a lesson I learned in year 2, and we'll be 22 this year. But in the last 5 years, I've been very deliberate about bringing in the people at the top that can make me obsolete, that can take the things that we've built together, that we've turned into process together, and really be able to take it and run with it without me being there. I've always found that our clients, we have the most success when I show up to a meeting and they ask, why am I there?
Yeah, well, that's the way that you want it, right?
100%.
Because isn't it hard sometimes, though, for you when you think about hiring and retaining talent? It's important, but thinking about getting yourself out of the meetings is really important. Yeah. I want to know with the labor market, it's so tight right now, and I think in your field, between people that may want to go into digital marketing or into traditional creative, like how are you retaining that talent today? I just know it's so competitive.
It's as tough as I've ever seen it, and we've gone through 2 recessions, and hopefully it's just 2, and this is as tough as we've ever seen it. We've made some changes. We now have this year we instituted Endless Summer Fridays. So
Endless Summer Fridays.
You get off every single Friday all year long. You get off at 1:00, period.
Really?
Yeah. We tried to go to a 4-day week, and no one wanted it.
I better not tell my staff that. They're going to all want off Friday.
I'm an old dog. My new trick is that I can embrace hybrid, and we've done that in a way that I think is really meaningful. We're never going to be a remote agency. It's just we work better when there's people in front of each other. But the retention has been putting together lots of different ways to compensate people. So giving people that might have in the past not had true performance measures in their compensation package, now we've got them. We're doing cost of living raises, especially in this sort of inflation climate. But really it comes down to finding people who have a passion for what we're going to do. And in my case, where we really, I think for Tailfin, where we can really exceed or succeed is that we can take people who've been caught in this sort of spin cycle, this churn of a big agency where there's a lot of people above you on rungs up the ladder, and say, you're smart, why can't you hop that? Why can't you come and lead and help define what we're going to be? But the truth is, we still hit these things where if I've got somebody who's getting recruited by a Fortune 50, I cannot match a triple offer on your salary.
Right.
I just can't do it. And I don't blame people. It's heartbreaking for me when we lose somebody, especially somebody who I really, really love who's a part of our fabric. But that's been the toughest thing this year.
How do you know on both sides of this when's the right time maybe to buy a company or to merge another brand that could be smaller into your brand, or vice versa? The consideration of selling or merging into a bigger agency, because I know agencies will merge all the time.
Yeah.
How do you think about that as an owner of Tailfin?
It's interesting. You look at it from a few different ways. What's your tolerance for risk? Obviously, is a big one, and that is both in bringing that other company in, but also financially. Like, do you have the money in the coffers to do it, and are you willing to put that money on the table? The way that I think we've done it, or we've considered it, is typically when we've partnered with another group and we've kind of grown that familiarity, we've gotten a working rhythm, then we can kind of look at each other and say, look, we've been kind of working in sin. Should we get married?
Right.
Should we put this together? I think the other thing is, if we find that we are losing deals, that we're not winning pitches because we have a glaring hole in our offering, and if we can fill that hole by purchasing another company as opposed to just adding staff. Sometimes it's nice. You can add a book of business and an entire department rather than trying to go, let me build this one person at a time. Because when we've done that in the past, where we try to add a new skill one person at a time, it can be lonely for that person, where they're the only expert.
The only expert in that area.
And everyone turns to them and says, what do we do? What do we do?
When it comes to a pricing perspective, sometimes you mentioned in the beginning about getting a marquee client. Have you had to trade margin off altogether sometimes to get a client that would put a logo or a brand on your website that says, we do business with these people?
We can't afford to do it.
Can't afford to do it.
And we'll tell, and the truth is, we're a smaller shop. We don't have $1 million lobby. We run lean and mean. We're very agile, and we have people that can wear a lot of different hats. So more often than not, we wouldn't have to shave or cut margin, especially for a large client, because they're used to paying for quote unquote big agency, right, which has huge overhead. You bring 12 people to a meeting for no reason.
It costs you bucks.
Exactly. So we try and appeal by saying, look, we are more efficient by our very nature and the way we're built. That's enough savings for you. Don't ask us to take another 5% off of what is already a 15% savings for you.
As you scale this business, I always talk about climbing the ladder and then thinking about exiting stage left. What gives you the best chance to be able to get the highest multiple on this business? And given the environment we're in, where now interest rates have spiked up, capital's a little bit tighter, does that give you some pause here to say, I don't know if this is the right time. I've got to wait until we're out of a mini recession and into a growth phase again?
Yeah, I think that let me answer the second half of that first. I think that I'm less worried about whether they have the money to buy us or not. Or, if we're making an acquisition, that's one thing. But if somebody wants to come and talk to us about joining their team, I don't really care. They're talking.
You either have the money or you don't.
They don't. And I don't think for an acquisition of our size, it's not such a seismic deal that an interest rate fluctuation is going to really make a huge difference. Plus, we can be super creative in the way that we would put that together. But I think that, the thing for us to create the perception of value, which that's what you're selling, is the perception. It's having a staff in place that makes the team sort of redundant, so that if one person were to leave during an acquisition, business as usual. I think having clients that show a lot of tenure and a lot of action and a lot of loyalty, not just to one person, but
right,
to the concept of the agency. And to be able to show that, look, even in this kind of market, we can retain staff, or if we can't, we can backfill and transition with not a hiccup. So it's tough. That's a lot to check, in those boxes. But, a lot of it, I think, comes down to thinking creatively and not being stubborn, not go in with an expectation, but know that expectation is going to get shaken and stirred right out of the gates.
Let's say one day it happens. Somebody writes you a check. They give you that money that you want. How do you think an owner should break the news to their employees? I know how I had to do it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
How do you break the news to people that say, hey, everybody, I just want to let you know we sold the company?
Yeah.
How do you think about you would do that one day?
Well, that's the thing. And we've talked to people over the years, and it's always come down to one of the first questions I ask is, what's the after? What's the after for the team? If it's not a real windfall for everybody, if they don't feel like there's going to be an uplift,
right,
like it's a new opportunity. Like, is it that thing where I can say, hey, we're going to be part of this large organization, which means you now have all these new resources to play with, and all these people are going to be coming to you as the expert. If we can't do that, then it's not going to make sense for me. My people are too important to me, and I think, I'm in an emotional business. We get paid to create feelings.
Right.
So I think that, and I can be an emotional guy. So, we're pretty brothers and sisters in arms. And the last thing I want to do is say, hey, I got a check, see you guys later. So
bye.
We're going to make sure it's fiscally makes sense for all of our team, and that they feel like it's a new opportunity rather than kind of an oh no moment.
So I want to know, what's the greatest marketing campaign or ad campaign that you've worked on? Do you have one that sticks in mind that you just loved it?
It's funny. We were talking about this the other day, and it's one of these little small things. Taco Bell came to us years ago and said, hey, we've got this thing called the XXL Chalupa.
The XXL Chalupa?
It's like the size of your football. It's huge. And they, in the same breath, and said, and we have a sponsorship for a monster truck rally. What should we do with that? And so I'm not a writer. But every now and then I'll have a terrible idea that they use. And we wrote the line "Feast on the Beast," and we built this like 30 by 30 box in the middle of the monster truck rally that I was like, can we build a box? And they said, sure. And I said, can we smash it at the end? And they said, sure. And I said, can I pick the truck? So yeah, that it's the dumbest thing we've ever done, but it was super fun. And sometimes those are the things that kind of stick with you the longest, for sure.
Well, I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today, just sharing with us
Absolutely.
just the thoughts about the mindset of a business owner, especially in your industry, which I know is topsy-turvy some days. Folks, this is what it's all about. Remember, Greg talked about what's your risk tolerance. Think about this as you're going to be able to sell your business. We're thinking about it if you're going to acquire businesses. Remember, every week right here on the Roadmap, Ted Jenkins, the Atlanta Small Business Network. We're going to talk about climbing the ladder. We're talking about scaling your business. And then one day, you too can exit stage left.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Ted Jenkins. This has been a JBF Business Media production.